My name is Andrew and this is Rope Wrenching. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to replace the headliner in this 2006 Ford F350. Let's get going. So these are all the tools that you need to get the headliner out. So we've got a Phillips head screwdriver, we've got a pin popping body clip tool here, a small flathead screwdriver there, a 8mm. This is a medium depth socket, but you can do it with a deep. You probably need a deep, not a shallow. So a 8mm, a 7mm, and then a 1/4" drive ratchet. And that's all the tools you need to get the headliner out of one of these trucks. So this is a single cab F350. You can see the headliner fabric is falling apart. And I'm gonna show you guys how to replace that. So we're gonna need to pull the A-pillar cover, we're gonna pull the sun visors, we're gonna pull that door handle, we're gonna pull these hooks right here off, as well as the light. We're gonna take all that stuff off, and then also obviously the back B-pillar, that plastic's gonna have to come off. We're gonna take all that off, and then the headliner's gonna come down and come out. So let's take that stuff off now. So this is the rear light, and the way you get this light off is you take this plastic cover off. There's a little spot in the back where you can catch it with a screwdriver and pop the cover off, and then once you're inside, you can see the screws to remove it. The other challenging part is these guys right here. So the way you take these out is with a tool like this one here, and you just come up underneath and you pry on it, and when it comes out, it looks like that. So it's big and it's long, but you want to try to pull straight out on it. That way you don't break the head off of it, because this is one of the things that holds your headliner up. So be careful not to break these, because they're hard to find if you break them. What I did with this is I just popped it back and just kind of pried it down so I could slip the headliner out, and then I left that side alone. So that's how you get the headliner out. That's what the roof looks like with it out. And now I'm going to show you how to replace this material. So we're only replacing the fabric because the fabric is the problem. So we're replacing the fabric, but the kind of cardboard shape and foam, we're reusing all that. We're just replacing the fabric. So as you can see here, there's a cardboard layer, and then there's the foam and fabric layer. So we're replacing the foam and fabric layer is what's going on. So once you have your headliner out, the first step is to peel back the fabric. So you just kind of pull on it and it'll come right up, especially if the foam is deteriorating, it comes up really easy. And you just pull it back over the whole thing. So this step is definitely more tedious because we want to peel off all of the foam that is attached to this board. So you can see here the edge is starting to peel, and you can kind of peel it off. We got to peel all this foam because the adhesive doesn't stick to the foam very well. It sticks to this solid surface here. So we want to get all the foam off so that we can actually get a good bond with our new headliner material that's going on. A nylon brush like this on the end of a small drill, like this one, works really well to scrub this foam off. So it's kind of a two-handed operation, so I can't really show you the whole process here, but that drill and that little brush there is what works really well. I will put a link to these in the description. They are super cheap on Amazon, and you get a 3-pack, but that works really well. This also works great for cleaning lots of other stuff too. So I'll link these brushes down in the description below if you're interested in picking up some of those, and then a drill and scrub all the stuff off. You want to be careful when you're using a power tool like this. We don't want to damage the material underneath it. All right, so the most difficult part of this project, I think so far, is actually peeling the foam off of the backing board. So we've got it all scraped down pretty well now. A power drill with that nylon brush, you can see this one's a little bit spread out now. A power drill with a nylon brush like that one is the best kind of method we found to getting this thing cleaned up. So once it's all cleaned up, you got to brush off all the loose particulate, that way the glue has something to stick to. And then the next step is going to be, we're going to trim our raw material out roughly to length. So we're going to give us a few inches on each side, and then we're going to spray this down with the 3M adhesive. I will link it below in the description if you're looking for it, and glue it on, and we're going to show that next. Okay, so now that all the foam has been scraped off, there's still little bits of foam here, and that's okay. And then we've got our new material here, which is, I'll put a link to the description. This is from Hobby Lobby. This is just gray foam-backed headliner material. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to take a spray adhesive and we're gonna spray all of the that's gonna get a coat of spray, and then this back is gonna get a coat of spray, and then we're gonna put it together, and I'll show you guys how that all works. But first, let's go talk about the spray adhesive. All right, so this is the spray adhesive that we're using. This is 3M Headliner glue. Got this off of Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below if you guys wanna check it out. Really good stuff. This stuff works really well. I've seen it used a bunch of times. This is gonna be my first time actually using it though. I've seen this used at shops that I've worked for, but I haven't actually used it myself. So this is gonna be kind of an experiment for me too. So anyway, this is the glue we're using. We're gonna apply a thin coat to the headliner board as well as a thin coat to the headliner material. Let it sit for 30 seconds to a minute, and then we're gonna bond them together, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. All right, so we're gonna take our can, and we're gonna give it just a nice even spray. We're gonna try to overlap our coats a little bit while we're spraying. It's kind of hard to see where it's actually at, so I'm gonna do 2 passes. I'm gonna give the edge coat an extra pass, and then we're gonna do the rest of the across. If we overlap a little bit, it's not a big deal. We want to overlap these coats so we get good, even coat over the whole thing. Especially in these areas that are kind of more of a, not like a straight flat, just like that. And then just give it a nice flat coat. And especially down on the edge, we want to make sure we get a good, even coat down there. A little bit extra right in the middle just for good measure. All right, then we're gonna let that tack up for a minute, and we're gonna go and spray that. Here we go. All right, so now this is all, that's all sprayed up. We got that all sprayed up. Now, the tricky part is to get this fabric laid onto that sticky side down and centered, and then we gotta push it down. And I'm gonna show you guys that here in just a second. I'm gonna peel off my rock weights down here underneath, which I used just to weight this down so it didn't blow away in the wind. And then I'm gonna carefully lift this so that it doesn't fold back on itself and stick. So then we're gonna take and we're gonna go over it firmly with a hand, in a gloved hand, and we're gonna push the fabric down and work it through all the corners. We wanna try to stretch so that we don't have creases along the edges. Doesn't look fabulous. Careful with these creases. You want to try to stretch the material. So this is the finished product. You can definitely see some imperfections here. Might be able to tell this is the first time I've done this. Some creases and stuff in this. And kind of what I learned doing this here is stretch the fabric out and then smooth it in to reach the ridges. Don't try to like work creases into it. So there's some creases, there's some imperfections, but I think this is gonna work for the work truck we're selling right there. So since this is just for a sale truck, I'm not super worried about it. Either way, this is a vast improvement over what we had previously. So we're gonna let this set up for probably an hour or so, and then we're gonna go about the business of trimming all the holes and cutting it to size and reinstalling it in the vehicle. So then you're gonna wanna let the headliner dry for an hour or two, and then go around and trim up all of the edges to match the cardboard underlayment, like you can see here. Now, as you can see, this does not look that great, as this is my first one. So some of these wrinkles around the holes, and then we come underneath and there are gonna be holes that we're gonna need to cut out for all the things that go through the headliner. So the next step is gonna be go through and cut all of. Alrighty, so we got holes poked for screws, we got the visor holes cut out, as well as the visor mounts, and then the holes for the little push pins there. We got the hole for the rear light cut out, and then obviously the trim all the way around the edge. So now it's time to put this thing back in the vehicle. So once the headliner is up and in, make sure all of your holes line up. The plastic right there, use a good spot to just kind of set the headliner in and then push it up and line it up. And then line up your 2 push pins. There's one there and then one right here. Line those 2 up and those will center everything so that all your holes line up. You definitely want to trim these holes and have access before you put the headliner in, otherwise it's gonna be much more difficult. So now all we gotta do is put all the trim pieces back together and then we're done. So as you can see, some of the areas in here where the fabric wasn't quite perfect, when you put in the different pieces that go through it, it just sucks it up and it looks perfect. So obviously there's a little bit of a color difference. The new stuff is a little bit darker than the old stuff was, but it still works really well and looks fabulous. So that's gonna wrap up the headliner install on this truck. This principle is gonna be the same for basically any car that you're working on that has a cloth headliner. All you gotta do is remove the unit from the vehicle, peel the old fabric off of it, rub all the foam off of it, and then glue it down. A couple of things that I learned, as I said earlier, this is my first one, so I'm kind of figuring out as I go, but I had an idea of how to do it, so I wanted to do a video. Anyways, a couple of things that I kind of learned and things to kind of caution you as you step into this repair is be careful with the glue. Make sure you don't spray too much glue on the foam. There were a couple spots where I had to go back and respray glue and it ended up like soaking through the foam and you can see it on the top fabric. So spray back from foam like we did, where you've got kind of a nice wide spray pattern. You don't want to soak through the foam, and then make sure you push down all the way around the foam and try to stretch it out and be careful about wrinkles. It's a lot easier if you've got a second set of hands to keep your piece of material from moving around and to help set it on square to start with. But other than that, that's kind of all we've got for you in this video. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up so that it can spread to more people. And if you want to see more content like this or follow along to see what else happens with this truck, definitely subscribe to the channel below and turn on that bell for notifications. Otherwise, that's all we've got for you. If you want to see another video on this truck introducing it, I will link it right there, and we'll see you guys in that video.